With the release of Across the Spider-Verse, I figured this would be the best time to make both Spider-Verse movies in LEGO. And in my last video, I made all 8 live-action Spider-Man movies. So in this video, I'm going to do both of the animated movies. So let's start with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, since I'm only doing 2 movies, these builds are going to be a little bit bigger than my previous ones. Because in my last video, it was 8 builds for 8 different movies, but in this video, it's only going to be 2 builds for 2 different movies. So for Into the Spider-Verse, I'm going to build that big machine, the like portal blast thing. And in the movie, it is absolutely huge. There's no way to make it that big in LEGO, so I'm definitely gonna have to downsize it. Like if you look, there's the entire machine, and at the top of it there's these like rotating circles. Look at that compared to Spider-Man. This thing is absolutely huge. It's gonna have to be really downsized. So I started off with this huge base and a nice black border, and then I just covered up the floor with white plates. And in the movie, it's this huge white room, which is why I made the floor white, but I'm not gonna put any walls on this because I just don't have enough parts, which might make the MOC seem a little bit smaller just because it has no walls. But now I have to make the actual machine. So I just saw a bunch of like circle parts that I had, and I just tried to make a big machine, but the problem was I had to make sure that I could make 2 of them. So it did kind of hold me back in some parts of it because there were some things I wanted to do that I couldn't do because I didn't have enough to make 2 of them. And again, this is like really downsized. But if you ignore the size of it, I think it's actually pretty good. Now the idea is to obviously have like a huge power blast in the middle, but I didn't want it to be like super flimsy. So I figured the best way to make it sturdy was to use Technic. So I put 2 black rods in it, and that's going to come together and make it a lot stronger. And then I built a simple base to hold the machine up, and I stuck it on the build. And I quickly realized that the base was not strong. The machine on both sides was leaning really bad. So I added like a little bigger base on the bottom, and that made it a little bit better. In the movie, the machines are on the wall, but I don't have any walls, so I had to come up with something different. Now it was still leaning, but the power blast in the middle is going to help fix that. Now to start the actual beam, I started by connecting it from end to end with a bunch of like Technic brick pieces. And I forgot what to call these, but I added these things on the side. And then I added some different colored plates on all 4 sides of the brick, and then I just continued to elevate it until I got this. And in the middle is kind of like a ball where both sides connect. And now in the movie, there's like huge buildings coming out of it, and I wanted to add something like that, but I obviously can't do buildings because it's really downsized. So I just added like a bunch of random stuff coming out of it. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't like this, so I did 2 different versions. So first with this one, here's the figures with it. You obviously have Miles, Gwen, Spider-Man, Spider-Ham, and Spider-Noir. Now I'm not doing like the anime one because I don't want to try and build it, and they've also never made her in LEGO, so I'm just not going to worry about it. And then here's the other version. It's pretty much just the same thing, but they're in different positions and it doesn't have all that stupid stuff on it. This one, it's just the power blast. And I'm going to be honest, I like the machine and the power blast, but I just feel like it's so simple. Like in the movie, it was this huge thing and it had a bunch of like buildings coming out of it, and it was like cool fight scenes. But in this build, it's just the power blast and the machines. But just something about both movies is since it's animated, the stuff is absolutely huge. Like for my next build in Across the Spider-Verse, it's also downsized because in the movie it's so huge. They make it so big because it's animated. So now I'm going to destroy it and go into Across the Spider-Verse. Now for this one, I started off with an extremely small base, but it's because this MOC is going to be tall. For Across the Spider-Verse, I'm doing the final fight vertical train scene. So of course I did the base, and then I put some light gray plates on it, and then I started to build up the walls. But this build is going to be weird because I'm building it vertical. So I'm building a train but sideways. And also I've never built a train before, so this might not be the greatest. But after I built up the walls, I have it where I can stick stuff on the walls because I'm gonna have to build sideways. So I put some plates on 2 sides so that I can build on them. And then in the movie there's these things. I don't know, I'm not gonna try to explain it. I built them and they're gonna go on 2 sides of the build. Don't even say anything about it. I know that there's orange stuff on it in the movie. I had no orange smooth pieces or anything to make that, so it's just solid gray. Now for the 2 sides with the base plates, on one side I tiled it off and I made it look like the top of the train in the movie. And then on the other side I made what would be the bottom of the train. I made like the little hook things that hook onto the railing. And then I started to look at it from the top, and I started to realize that this is a square and it's supposed to be more like a rectangle with wider bases and smaller sides. So I had to completely destroy it and rebuild it and make it better. I had to redo the base and the walls and everything. And if you just look at the sides of both of them, I think that this looks a lot better. And then I had to figure out how I wanted to connect all the other ones. So I came up with this. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be very complicated because it's vertical, so it's not like it's gonna break as easily as if it was sideways because it's all just resting on each other. So now it's time to make the exact same thing a few more times. So for the second one, it's identical. The only difference is the top of it. I changed it up a little bit because it's not identical on every single one in the movie. The top of each of them are a little bit different, so I just changed it up just a little bit. So I connected it to the first one, and now I had to build one more. So this third one is also identical. The only difference is the top of it. It's a lot more simple because because this is where Miles and all of them are going to be up at the top, so it doesn't need to have as much stuff at the top of it. Now on all three where it connects, they're all hollow, but on the top one I'm not going to make it hollow. Since I'm not going to have to connect anymore, I'm just going to tile it off, because this looks a lot better than having it just open. And now that all three are connected, the train is finished. Now I got as many different Spider-Man as I could, and they're all going to go on the train. Now I'm not going to add like the 50 different Tom Hollands, because those are all technically the same Spider-Man. I'm only going to add one, and I'm also just going to throw in Tobey and Andrew Spider-Man. I know that they're not in the scene, but I just want to add as many different Spider-Man as I can. And now that I put all the figures on, here's the completed build. Now of course, if you look at one section of the train compared to Miles, this thing is also extremely downsized, but I don't think it's like the worst thing ever. I do think that the 8 Spider-Man builds that I built in my last video are all better than these two, but these ones were a lot bigger, and I do think that the Into the Spider-Verse one actually looked kind of good. It's just that it seems so simple because the base was so big, but the build was so simple. But back to Across the Spider-Verse. Here's the train with no base and if you lay it down, but it's meant to be vertical because that's how it was in the movie. Now there's also all the Spider-Man near the bottom chasing Miles, and then Miles is pinned down by 2099 Spider-Man. And a little side note, but the 2099 Spider-Man wasn't that rare a long time ago, but now that the movies come out, this figure is like $100, and whenever I got mine was a little messed up on the torso, as you can see, and I didn't care too much, and I was thinking about buying another one, but that ain't gonna happen now. I'm not spending $100 for a replacement. But anyways, that's the completed Across the Spider-Verse build, and now I have built both Spider-Verse movies in Lego.